The reason that is so important to me to say to you is I've only walked with Jesus. In 20 days, it'll be 50 years. But in those 50 years, I can, without a doubt, you could not come up and argue me out of it. I've met so many girls who belong to Jesus who are basket cases, who are not being used of God. They've grieved the Holy Spirit because they're constantly in a state of mourning because they're married to some loser guy because they didn't listen to the basic principles that God shows in his word about how to wait for his best. He gave us Jesus and never settle. So a friend of mine in New York City on the street found this purse, and she mailed it to me as a visual to say to everybody in this room, for someone you know that is single, here's the deal. The enemy seduces women through the stud. But the problem is, when I was given this purse, I was traveling and doing a lot of teen conferences, and I'd always hold this up, and all the girls are like, ah. Shows how deceived already. We're not even there. So anyways, half of them are already dating, they're already deceived. But when I was traveling back from a conference, I threw it in my suitcase, but it landed on the brochure that was announcing the conference that I was at. And luggage that sits in airports for 45,000 hours on delays, it heated it and stuck to the back, and when I tore it off, it did this. And I was so disappointed. I go, oh no, my great visual's been ruined. And the Lord said, perfection. Because he attracts you, and then he leaves you scarred. And Jesus, you spend years allowing the Lord to heal the scar that has been left by the loser in 3D. And I say all that to say, on the left-hand side of my book table is everything you would need to protect someone from the bozo tribe, which is clearly increasing, especially in South Florida. We got more bozo men down here. And I'm not talking about bozo lost guys. I'm talking about bozo guys disguised as godly men, men who do not live their name. Don't get me started about that either. Okay, so you want about rob me of joy? I'm sitting with this precious woman the other day and listening to her tragic life, and I'm staring at her, and all I see blinking, bozo, bozo, why would someone settle for a guy? I'm staring, I'm trying to keep a straight face, and this blinking is going on in my head, and all of a sudden I go, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but were you sleeping with him before you got married? You should have seen her. I've never met with her before. Everybody always thinks I'm a prophet. No, it is a biblical reality that the reason God says no sex before marriage is he knows that women play at sex to get love, and men play at love to get sex. And so many women are with a man who all of us know he is a loser, but she can't see it because she's so involved with her little stud. And she's walking around totally blind. She always says, why didn't my girlfriend say something? Because, girlfriend, when you're having sex before marriage, you think you're with Prince Charming. And then you're disobeying the father. So therefore, you get married, and all of a sudden, I'm like, ah! You know, the blinders come off. And you find out it's Prince Harming rather than Prince Charming. Now, the great thing about God, he never wastes our suffering. He's so good. He can take evil and bring good, but not without a big price. Now, the price to you. I mean, he can touch anything and bring beauty from ashes. But why do we always have to be dealing with ashes, girlfriends? What are we doing? So if you love someone and she's dating you go to lunch with her, because you want it done in a public place when you say this. I love you too much not to tell you this. When did you start having sex with him? She'll be like, how can you? Because only that would keep you with that. Trust me. All right. Love her enough. I've done it many times. Okay, as you can tell. So now we're going to talk about joy. But I want to talk about what robs you, the number one thing that robs a woman of joy. And I have it on my little Disney lanyard here. Notice, junior God, junior God, junior God, junior God, junior God. The number one thing that suffocates joy right out of a woman's life is her issue with control. Now, I want to say something to everybody in this room. Do not think about your best friend right now. Do not think about your mother-in-law. Don't think about your sister. You have to when I'm talking, say, oh, right now, oh, Holy Spirit, help me to examine my soul. When I went to teach this material at my home church, I was allowed to get up and announce that I'm going to do Surrender Your Junior God Badge, Every Woman's Battle with Control. I said, please come sign up. So I walked to my table, and all these men are standing out there. I'm like, I think somebody misunderstood. So the first guy goes, this is actually for women. And these guys all started laughing. Oh, yeah, we know. We're signing our wives up. They don't know. And if the men don't have the courage to say it, your kids would definitely volunteer to critique your controlling tendency. All right. Now, so how do you know if you're controlling? Well, the first way, I'm going to go through a few things. Oh, and let me tell you one thing about being a controlling woman. We've always dogged the ministry of Martha versus Mary. Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus. Hey, it was Martha's house, so this is a hard-working woman. It's her home. She's fixing the meal, so back off, everybody. You know, everybody, listen, I'm glad. Martha would have been at her feet if she hadn't lugged that lasagna off that big brick thing and almost killed herself. So she would have been sitting at the feet of Jesus. But watch this. What's interesting is Martha comes into Jesus, the King of Kings, the incomparable wonder of the world, and says, do you not care? Like, that's the dumbest thing anybody could have ever said to Jesus. And we do this when we're hurting. Yes. Do you not care? We got our hand on our hip, just like Martha, so be very careful. Whenever time something bad happens, you go, Jesus, I thought you loved me. Do you not care? You're in Martha mode. Just remember that. You moved to Martha. Do you not care? What I love, she says, it sounds really nice in King James, bid my sister come help me. That translated, bid means commander. So get this, she's commanding the King of Kings to command. Now, we're laughing at that, but we do it all the time. I hear women pray, and they think they're full of faith when they're commanding God what to do. Woo! Be careful. How did Jesus pray? Not my will, but thine be done. 120 people were standing on a lawn with candles praying for someone who was full of cancer. My husband was part, they were always praying. And different things, they were shouting, commanding him what he's going to do. And at the end, one voice, and he opened his eyes to see who it was. And a woman said, oh, that we would pray like Jesus. And they think they were praying like Jesus. Not my will, but thine be done. So just be very careful about bossing God around. My grandchildren, when they saw these buttons, their mom said to the youngest, Rhett, what is those buttons that Mimi wear? What do they mean? God is king and I am not. Right out of his mouth, 4 years old. Because at their house, they always say, who is king? God is king. Are you king? I am not. So some of us in our mature years have still not learned that one. So you know what he does? He lets you live with the consequences. Yay, yay. That's how we're going to learn.